Hi, this is Dan Smith of DPS Legal Counsel, and welcome to today's episode of Legal Scrubs, where I discuss issues of interest and importance to solo and small group practice physicians. And so today's episode of Legal Scrubs is going to talk a little bit about telehealth or telemedicine. In today's environment where people are having to be careful and implement social distancing because of the coronavirus, the issue of telehealth or telemedicine, where patients can see their doctor remotely through technology, is going to be becoming more and more important. And there's a recent Tennessee House bill that was introduced not too long ago dealing with telehealth or telemedicine that physicians should be aware of as it works its way through the Tennessee legislature. At this time, this particular bill is not enacted into law, but it is one of great interest and one that we do want to watch as it makes its way through the legislature. Of course, telehealth or telemedicine is allowed in Tennessee. This particular bill just strengthens telehealth or telemedicine for physicians and for patients. So here's essentially what this bill does and what you need to know about. Number one, this bill in its current form would allow, it does a number of things. One thing it would do is it would allow a patient to select his or her own private location in which to have a remote encounter with their physician. So, for example, if the patient wanted to have the telehealth or telemedicine remote visit with his or her physician from their home, they could do that. They would not have to go to a particular specific qualified type of location in order to have a good telehealth or telemedicine encounter with their physician. So that allows for private locations to be selected by the patient. In order for the patient encounter to be permissible, the doctor needs to have had a in-person encounter, patient encounter, in-person encounter with that patient within the prior 18 months. I believe the original version of the bill required 24 months, but it has been amended, so it's 18 months now. Assuming that's the case, then the patient could have an encounter with their physician remotely through telemedicine, and they could stay in their own home to get to see their physician through the wonders of technology. This is going to be especially helpful for patients who live in rural or perhaps remote areas of the state to be able to see their physician. It's also going to help with patients who perhaps have serious conditions but who live in a remote location of the state to see their physician quickly without having to, for example, call an ambulance and drive perhaps a long way into a major urban area of the state in order to be seen. For example, if a patient has diabetes or a heart condition, this is the kind of thing that it's going to be helpful for that patient to be able to see their physician remotely through telemedicine. So that's one thing. The patient can select a private location in which to originate the telemedicine encounter with their physician, which could be their own home. Second, this bill would actually require insurance companies to treat remote telemedicine patient encounters with physicians exactly the same, on parity with in-person patient encounters, so that they would be billed and paid, reimbursed through their insurance companies exactly the same as if the encounter was held in person. This bill would require parity of payment for telemedicine remote encounters. This is, of course, an important provision for physicians and for the patients who have their health insurance and want to make sure that their health insurance carriers are going to cover in a proper way their telemedicine encounters with their physicians. This bill would also allow, if a patient goes to see their doctor at a health facility, which is defined in some ways under the bill. Could be a hospital, it could be some other places that is a health facility, not their home. It does allow for the health facility to charge an originating site fee to the insurance carrier, and the insurance carrier would need or be required to pay that. Again, this just strengthens the ability of patients and doctors to use telemedicine. We'll see how this bill goes as it works its way through the legislature. It does provide for telemedicine to be strengthened in the state of Tennessee, and again, it defines telemedicine in a way that would include live video encounters with the patient. It would include what's called a store and forward encounters, which would be, for example, where a patient may take a photograph of something on their body, send it to the doctor, and then get a diagnosis or a treatment plan back. Now, things such as email or just audio telephone calls are not included in telemedicine, so it would have to be something different on the store and forward version of a telemedicine encounter. In addition to live video encounters and store and forward patient encounters, it also includes a remote patient monitoring, where, for example, a doctor can see in real time what's going on with the patient through patient monitoring. For example, a heart or other kind of things that can be monitored, and the doctor can see what's going on with that patient at a remote location. That is remote patient monitoring, or RPM. This bill also includes that within the purview of telemedicine. So that's all good for both patients and for doctors. We'll watch as this comes forward, but this is going to be an evolving and increasingly important area of practice for solo and small group practice doctors who want to be able to provide care to their patients who may live remotely from them, and particularly in an age where, either because of difficulty in traveling or health conditions of the patient, or perhaps even situations like we have now with the coronavirus, where patients don't want to come in and take the risk of traveling or going into a hospital or a doctor's office to be seen, and also for physicians who can benefit from being able to treat their patients remotely. Telemedicine is going to be more and more important for doctors and patients to learn about and to use. Okay, I hope that helps for today's episode of Legal Scrubs, and if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me at dpslegalcounsel.com. Until then, we'll see you next time.